Spoiler warning, Marvel fans, that last episode of WandaVision was absolutely insane, especially that ending. But let's break that down. What's up everyone, it's Elisa from the Den of Nerds. Don't forget to smash that like button and also check out the live channel to see Josh break down these crazy theories every single day. Alright, this is your second official spoiler warning. If you have not seen WandaVision episode 6, please get out of here. We're going to be talking about some heavy spoilers, but I do want to be completely honest with you guys, 100% full disclosure. I myself am a Marvel normie, and that's one of the greatest things about WandaVision is they've really brought in some of these Marvel normies like myself and taught us a lot about the fandom and got us really excited about learning more about the MCU. Okay, so a lot of really crazy things happened in this episode, but the one thing that stuck out and the one thing that I know all of the Marvel sweaties are talking about right now is the fact that Wanda expanded the Hex and swallowed up all of these sword agents. It was absolutely crazy, just another display of how amazing her power is and how much it's grown since we last saw her in the MCU. But before we get into that, I want to talk about Monica Rambaue and her crazy lab tests and how that Hex expanding might actually lead to the development of her character. So there was a scene in this past episode where Monica Rambaue, Darcey Lewis, and Jimmy Woo were all undercover in one of Hayward's offices trying to hack into his mainframe, and while they were doing that, trying to find a way to get into the Hex again so that Monica could help Wanda, Darcey Lewis came across some crazy files that indicated that Monica's blood work is insane. As Monica and Jimmy are sort of planning to hotwire one of their military vehicles and get back into the Hex, Darcey makes the comment that Monica cannot go back into the Hex, and that's because all of her blood samples seem to have come back, and it shows that her cells have completely reorganized themselves on a molecular level twice, which could indicate that Darcey believes if it were to happen a third time, the results could be tragic. Now, the reason why that's so crazy is because Monica Rambeau's character actually gets her powers from an insane amount of energy that she absorbs, turning her into nothing but pure light and energy, similar to how we see Carol Danvers' character become the first Captain Marvel in the MCU. So the question now becomes, are we seeing Monica's character becoming what we know to be Photon from the comics and developing her powers from the Hex, or is it possible that we're going to see a completely different origin story come from her character in which Kevin Feige might be introducing mutants back into Marvel? This is important because the Mutants are one of Marvel's most profitable franchises, and we know this because they're one of the first things they sold over in the 90s when they were going broke. Which, quick side note, I would just like to add, and this might just be something that I found fascinating, but Marvel actually sold their rights to those characters in the 90s, and that's why they haven't been able to mention mutants until now, when they introduced the Fox Universe's version of Quicksilver, which just so happens to be the episode when they were in the 90s. And that's just amazing. But look, the point is everyone is really excited to see the X-Men come back into the Marvel universe and for these characters to be under Kevin Feige's total and direct control. And we're all just left wondering exactly what the future holds for mutants in the MCU, especially because we know that Wanda Maximoff's character was originally a mutant, as well as her twin brother Pietro. And if the X gene in mutants is a genetic trait, then is there a possibility that her kids are mutants as well? And with this new information we have on Monica's cells and the way that the Hex has completely changed them, the question will now become, will Monica be a mutant, or will she simply get her power straight from the radiation and that immense amount of energy she's absorbed? And with the expansion of the Hex, we're all kind of left wondering if the others that were absorbed into this bubble, including Darcey Lewis, will now be affected by the Hex in the same way that Monica was when she first came out of the barrier. Will these sword agents also develop their own powers, or will only those who already had the X gene manifest their own superhuman abilities as this Hex kind of accelerates their mutation? And with that, we need to mention that it's possible Wanda Maximoff has always been a mutant, despite the the fact that they haven't been able to label her as one. And this goes back to the book Shuri's Wakanda Files, in which Shuri discovers that the people of Sokovia may have possessed some sort of genetic anomaly that made them better suited for the experimentation that Strucker was doing with the Mind Stone. Now with that, if you will go back to Guardians of the Galaxy with me and think back on a conversation that the Collector had with the Guardians, we learned that the stones may have existed before the Big Bang. And if we think about that in terms of how Wanda's hex contains that same type of energy, if, and that's a big if that energy is what accelerated her mutation, then it's possible that the energy and the radiation coming off of this hex could then create that same sort of acceleration in the residents of Westview, especially if some of those residents had an X gene. Now this is crazy because it could set up a reverse House of M type situation within the Marvel movies. In the comics, we see Wanda Maximoff utter the words "no more mutants," and it completely destroys a majority of the Earth's population of mutants. But in the situation of WandaVision, it might be possible that Wanda is the mother of all mutants, and through her hex sets up the creation of mutants within the MCU, which would be insane because her relationship with the outside world is already very sketchy, and creating more superhumans could possibly make that even worse. Now this would be an incredible callback to Magneto in the Fox universe, who is set up as this kind of father figure, messiah type character for the mutants within that universe. And so seeing Wanda take on this like father, like daughter role would be incredible, and I think Marvel fans would love it. But that's just one Marvel fan's take on it. Let us know what you think about this situation in the comments below. Do you think they're setting up Monica Rambeau to be a mutant, or do you think just some of the characters who already had the X gene will become mutants? Don't forget to check out the live channel to hear some more breakdowns of these crazy theories. And as we always say, I hope you have an awesome and a nerdy day, and I will see you whenever they decide I'm sweaty enough to make a new video.